wind easements. Those are two things that are kind of in front of everybody. We were successful in getting an extension. Basically, they extend the sunset on the 7-year wind power lease that expires this year after 1 year. Frankly, if someone comes to your farm, sets up a wind power lease with you, has no development, after 7 years, you can go to somebody else. Okay? Just fair for everybody. It's traveling through several pieces of legislation. Now, we also, on the corporate farm law and wind easement, 3 years ago, if you understand our, good morning. It'll be $5. Turn your line off, Wendell.
Somebody trying to sign up for membership.
There you go. Here's the skinny. About 3 years ago, we were, always our corporate farm law is saying there should be no alien ownership of farmland in the state of Minnesota. Farmland in the state of Minnesota. No alien ownership. Okay? 3 years ago, Goldman Sachs, you know who Goldman Sachs is? Goldman Sachs had a wind project that they wanted to sell to, I think, not a Spanish group, but a foreign concern. I can't remember which country it was now. And we said that that would have been a violation of corporate farm law. And we won. They hired 30 lobbyists, and it was Tom and I, and we won. We did a lot of work.
It's in Minnesota?
Yeah, they didn't get to sell it. It's still on a lease. Okay? Now, what ended up happening this year is we were approached by quite a few people, and here's where I want to talk to Tom and also Senators Andy. Because we have problems with the passive and ordinary income on tax credit, we cannot take advantages, nor can the REC co-ops take advantage of the wind power legislation or the community or the renewable electric standard in the state of Minnesota. There's a real problem with that, and we need to move that piece federally so that farmers, ordinary people on the ordinary income versus the passive income on tax credits can actually get some investments. What we find out by talking to the Attorney General's office and also talking to the Department of Agriculture is that because of the complexities of investments and the models of wind, in other words, putting a plan together, the complexities of where the money comes from and who invests in the beginning and the end and how that model is flipped, we find that there are all kinds of foreign investors involved in the tower, the lease, the cartway or the work road that's on the land, and even the underground transmission. And there is a huge issue on interstate commerce on inhibiting trade among states and also foreign countries within our country. So the challenge would have been a lawsuit to the state of Minnesota to defend. And then as we moved into this project, or into this corporate law challenge, we also found out that we have several members who are in wind co-ops that after the project is developed and the transmission lines and the MISO and power purchase agreements are all signed, in other words, to get it up and running, when that is all said and done, the money actually is from a foreign country. Okay? So we have some problems with this philosophically, but the financial implications of delivering wind power and adding value to Minnesota's own economy ends up being intrinsically tied to foreign investment or outside investment from other sources. Having said that, we cut a deal with the Department of Agriculture, and we're still kind of opposing the foreign investment and ownership, but the problems end up being is the state of Minnesota has got a lot of foreign ownership just in wind power lines, transmission lines, utility things already in the ground and on the ground. I'm concerned about that, and here's the problem that we really have. Now, this may sound tough to the Department of Agriculture, and I hope that the press is listening. We do not have a capable mechanism of recording nor having discovery of who owns land in the state of Minnesota. That is run by the Department of Agriculture. Is it the Department of Agriculture's fault that they only have one person in that department and probably 2 or 3 staff members looking for that? Do we have county auditors or recorders out there who are not recording land transactions and then putting them and notifying the Department of Agriculture? Do we have a mechanism for that in the state of Minnesota? No, we don't. So there is some fault. I'm suggesting very strongly that they find a mechanism for doing that, but in the current climate, there is none. Now, what we end up with is, I call it kind of a succotash of all of these investment things to make current power. And I can kind of throw a little blame. I know it's easy to point fingers, but you got to watch that because 3 are usually pointing back at you when you do that. We have not done the investment that we need to in making sure that wind, in conjunction with our RECs, Rural Electric Co-ops, is a viable part of our energy future in Minnesota. We haven't done that in the state. And that disappoints me a little bit.